Welcome to another Monday Night Live. I'm sorry that last week we had technical difficulties. We did not make it to YouTube, and my Zoom did not record. So, for those who do not recall what we were learning VeAta Tetzave. What is VeAta Tetzave? First of all, it's a portion of the week last week, but this was the final maamar that was distributed by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it's traditionally learned in honor of his birthday that's coming up on the Aleph Nisan, as well as in general. So that I'm going to summarize the sections we learn so that we remember what we even learned last week. So the first section, right, is the question section. The Rebbe just raises our questions. So there's 4 different questions that the Rebbe raises in the first section, right? And it's the beginning. The words, VeAta Tetzave, and you shall command the children of Israel, and they should bring you pure olive oil. So the first question the Rebbe asks, why is the form of the command different from all the other commandments in which the Moshe is directed to command the children of Israel? Speak to the children of Israel, etc. Why and you, right? Where's the VeAta, right? Usually it's Vaydaber Hashem Moshe lemor or etc. Right? So what's going on with that? 2. And the verse continues, and they shall bring to you, ve'aviu elecha, seemingly implying the oil should be brought to Moshe Rabbeinu. Why does that makes no sense? Because the lamps were in fact lit by Aaron. Why was it necessary to bring the oil to Moshe Rabbeinu? Right? 3. The phrase oil crushed for the luminary, right? Shemen zayit katit lama'or, for the luminary, not for light, for the luminary, lama'or. On the surface, crushed to illuminate makes more sense, not crushed for the luminary. The 4th question, the verse requires that a constant lamp be kindled, while the following verse states that the lamp shall burn from evening until morning. So we have a contradiction. So those are our 4 questions the Rebbe sets us up with, right? So the second section discusses the idea in you shall command, VeAta Tetzave, the children of Israel. It carries the implication that Moshe binds and connects, as the term tzavta, right? It's a form of connection. Moshe connects the Jewish people, and you, it can be command, but it can be and you connect the Jewish people. With what? With the Or Ein Sof, with Hashem's infinite light. Right? So he explained the relationship with Moshe and the Jewish people can be described as an analogy. Right? Moshe is like the head, and the feet, and the Jewish people are like the feet. The head elevates the feet. Nevertheless, the feet contribute to the head. For the feet can bring the head to a place that it couldn't reach on its own. Similarly, Moshe elevates the Jewish people, but also through the Jewish people, Moshe is advanced to a higher level. Right? So this is the idea. On the one hand, Moshe Rabbeinu gets to elevate the Jewish people. On the other hand, he is in fact elevated by the Jewish people. So that was the second part. Now we get a little bit of why VeAta Tetzave, and you, because there's a connection. So in the third section we learned last week, Baruch Hashem, we talked about how Moshe is called a Ra'aya Me'emana, which can mean a shepherd of faith. So it means sustaining and nourishing the faith of the Jewish people. Right? Although the Jewish people all have inherent resource of faith, it is possible that this can be encompassing, makif, we said, right? Surrounding light. It can be a surrounding light or it can be an internal light. So it's possible that this faith that we have just surrounds us, but it's not internalized. within a person's conscious thought and processes. So by fostering and nurturing the faith of the Jewish people, Moshe enables them to internalize this potential. The designation of Moshe as a shepherd of faith is not only applicable to Moshe Rabbeinu himself, but also to the extension of Moshe in every generation. Right? And so we talked about how in every generation there's a spiritual leaders who perform the same function as Moshe Rabbeinu. What are those functions? To be a shepherd of faith, to strengthen the faith of the Jewish people. For example, the example of Mordechai, which we just learned about in Purim, is like Moshe, because he performed a similar action. And then we go back. We had a question. What does it mean crushed for the luminary? Why not crushed for the light? Crushed for the luminary implies that the era of Galut, when everyone is broken and crushed, as we are today still, we're able to reveal the luminary. We're able to reveal Hashem, the essence of our soul, which is bonded to Hashem's essence. So by being crushed in this Galut, we're able to actually reveal the luminary himself, not just the light that shines from the luminary, but the luminary itself. It's necessary to understand the connection, right, between these two phrases. What is the connection between crushed for the luminary and the other explanation that we talked about, Vikibel within the function of Moshe and the extension of Moshe in every generation to sustain and nurture our people of faith, right? Because we said that Moshe is a shepherd of faith, and the Moshe of every generation is similarly a shepherd of faith. It enables the faith of every Jew that he has to be internalized. Because we can have faith, but it can be surrounding us, but we want to have it internalized. All right. So we'll continue inside Dalet. והנה הביאור בפסוק VeAta Tetzave במאמר בהמשך נבואר בתחילת המאמר לפירוש וקיבל היהודים את אשר החלו לעשות. And so the explanation of the pasuk, and you shall command, comes after in the maamar, which we're talking about. As we said, this is based on a Hasidic discourse of the Frierdiker Rebbe. וקיבל היהודים את אשר החלו לעשות. The Jews accepted what they started doing, right? They started doing it when? During the time of Matan Torah. That's when they started doing the commandments. Matan Torah הייתה התחלה, החלו לעשות, ובימי אחשוורוש, בזמן גזירת המן את הקבלה. At the time of Matan Torah they started doing, but in the time of Achashverosh, during the decree of Haman, then they truly received it upon themselves. וקיבל היהודים, and the Jews accepted upon themselves. ועל דרך מרדל על הפסוק קימו וקיבלו היהודים. קימו מה שקיבלו כבר. They fulfilled and accepted the Jews. What does it mean? They fulfilled what they already accepted. The fact that they said Nasa v'nishma, we're going to do and we're going to learn on Matan Torah was only the accepting upon themselves. But in the days of Achashverosh, they fulfilled what they accepted upon themselves. This seems to be a wondrous thing because in Matan Torah, the Jewish people were at the highest level they could be. And the level of godliness revealed by them was at the highest level. בנוסף לזה שגם קודם מתן תורה היו גילויים נעלים יותר, הגילוי שהיה ביציאת מצרים בפרט בקריאת ים סוף, הגילוי שהיה בשעת מתן תורה היה גילוי נעלה עוד יותר. So even though the revelation they had in the Exodus, and especially in the split of the sea and the revelation during Matan Torah, was a very elevated revelation. ובימי אחשוורוש היו ישראל בתחתית הירידה, and in the days of Achashverosh, the Jewish people was as low as they can go. בנוסף להלם וההסתר שבכל גלות, besides the general concealment and darkness that is within every exile. Every exile is like the exile of Egypt. And just like in the exile of Egypt, it's written, and they didn't listen to Moshe. from shortness of spirit and hard labor. This is the same way in every exile. There are several trials fulfilling Torah and mitzvot. So then, at the time of the decree of Haman, the concealment was even greater. However, even though at the time of Matan Torah, the Jews were as high as they can go, this was the beginning. They just started. And in the decree of Haman, when there was as low as they can be, they were spread around the land. They were in exile. They weren't in their own land. They weren't in their own control. Not just there weren't miracles. You couldn't even see Hashem in the world. To the point where in the Megillah it doesn't even mention Hashem's name, right? That's when they accepted. Because at the time of the decree, their fulfillment, Torah mitzvah, was in a way of giving over their soul. Besides the fact that they had that they didn't change their faith, because all they had to do was decide that they were going to change their faith, and nothing would happen to them, because the decree was only upon the Jewish people, those who are the Jewish faith. And not a single one of them thought to do this. They were willing to give over their soul to fulfill Torah and mitzvah. What did they do? Instead of being scared and afraid and making it so that they could, instead of being scared and afraid, what did they do? They made classes for children to learn Torah in public. They made public Torah classes to show that they're not scared, even though it was a danger, because technically at any time, and any of those the enemies of the Jewish people could decide, you know what, there's already a decree to kill them. What's going to happen if I kill them a little early, right? And how were they awakened to do this Mesirut Nefesh? Through Mordechai, who was the Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation. And this is what it means that the Jews received upon themselves what they started doing. Again, at the time of Matan Torah was the beginning, and the time of the Gzerat of Haman was acceptance. So they actually came because they had the level of Mesirut Nefesh, because they accepted upon themselves this when they didn't have to, in a way. This is a higher level than the Jews accept upon themselves. So let's get back to it. What was this thing about crushed for the luminary? Right? Seemingly, katit, crushed, meaning you're broken and depressed. When you're broken down and crushed, so you get to the luminary. Maybe this is talking, what is this talking about? That at the time of the decree, they were able to do giving over their soul and risking their lives and their soul in a very elevated way. Because the Mesirut Nefesh is from the side of the soul that is above revelation. It's from the level above revelation. What's the level above the light? The luminary itself. It's higher than the level of the light. All right? Aval However, in the order of the maamar of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the concept, the explanation of crushed for the luminary comes after the idea of the faithful shepherd. Meaning, since it comes right after this concept, there is a connection. The Chassidic discourse doesn't do anything by mistake. Since it comes after, there's a connection between the concept of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the faithful shepherd or the shepherd of faith. As we said, you can explain it either way. And the idea that Moshe The fact that Moshe sustains our faith to be internalized is connected. It's not coincidental. Yeah. שרואה ישראל שבכל דור מחזקים האמונה, ושהאמונה דישראל תהיה באופן מסירות נפש. What does it mean that the shepherds of the faith of the Jewish people strengthen the faith? Right? This idea is that the faith in the Jewish people will be in a way of mesirat nefesh, of giving over of your soul. ועל פי הנ"ל, wait, did I? Sorry, I think I just by mistake skipped a part. I apologize. Yeah. Did we just finish Daled? That makes sense. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I apologize. I skipped a page. So yes, we just finished Daled. So to summarize, the fourth section was completed. Right? So the verse, the Jews accepted what they began to interpret as meaning at the time of Purim miracle. The Jews consummated their acceptance of the Torah. They began at Mount Sinai, right? And we said it's necessary to understand a connection between the concept of crush for the luminary and the concept of Moshe to sustain the nature of faith. Hey, ויש לבאר זה על פי הידוע זה שישראל מאמינים באלוקות באמונה פשוטה ואין צריכים ראיות ועל זה הוא מצד שני טעמים. So we have to explain this in famous saying that the fact that the Jews believe in God in a simple faith and we don't need proof is from two reasons. לפי שמזלי וחזאי דנשמה שלמעלה רואה אלוקות. The first is because our luck, our mazel perceives it. What is it? Our mazel perceives it. The soul as it exists in the spiritual realm. So what does that mean? In the book of Daniel, it's talking about Daniel was the only one who saw the vision. The men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great trembling fell upon them. So they fled to hide themselves. Our sages asked, since those men did not see the vision, why did they flee if they didn't see the vision that Daniel was seeing? Even though they did not see the vision, the mazal, the source of their souls and the spiritual realm did. And as a result, the vision perceived by their mazal caused this great trembling to fall upon them. Even though they did not see the vision, they felt the grandioseness of it. So this is similar with regard to the source of the Jewish faith. The source of the soul in the spiritual realm sees Hashem. The soul is enclosed in the body, responds, and is motivated to believe in Hashem because of this. So that's one. That's just the explanation of what that means. The soul above sees godliness, which is a scene that is above reason, above intellect. And this causes the soul and the body to believe in godliness. The other explanation, the shoresh emunah, the root of faith, is from the essence of your soul, which is even higher than the luck of the Jew, so to speak. The fact that the essence of the soul is connected to godliness is an internal connection. It's not connected to any reason. Not even an idea of the soul seeing it above. So let's explain the difference between these two divisions about it. If we're talking about the faith that the soul that is dressed in the body receives from seeing the soul above, from seeing the soul above, this is only in a surrounding way, right? Because it's the soul, it's your spiritual soul above. It feels that something surrounds you, right? As we said in the example that was brought here, and that they felt that there was something awe-inspiring happening. They couldn't tell what it is. They couldn't see the vision, right? The people around Daniel. Since the soul the spiritual soul that is above being enclosed in your body, right? That's how it can experience godliness. Its action is also above the body. It's in the level of makif, surrounding light. And how do we get the faith to come inside our body, in the soul that is in our body? This can only be done through the connection, the self-connection of the essence of your soul. The essence of our soul is the essence of the soul that is enclosed in the body. Right? And this is why the faith of the soul that is in the body, from the side of the essence of the soul, is the inner part. Is it's in its inner part. It's not a surrounding thing. It's internal, because it's connected based on our internal soul, the internal part, the essence of our internal soul. And based on what we just said, this deep spiritual explanation, we need to connect what we talked about in the maamar. The crushed for the luminary comes as a continuation of the explanation of the faithful shepherd, of the faith shepherd, right? What does Moshe do? He sustains the faith that should be internal. How does he do this? He reveals the essence of the soul that is above even luck, the mazal can see, that is even above what the soul above can see. Ma'or shelemala me'or, the luminary that is above the light itself. Uma shekatuv katit lamor, and this is why it says crushed for the luminary. To reach the luminary, it's the idea of being crushed in the time of exile. Why? Why? Why is the way to get to the luminary is through crushed, through the exile, through the gulut. The main revelation of the essence of the soul, which is the luminary, as we said, is in Mesir Nefesh, when you can risk your soul, when you can give over your soul. When is the case of Mesir Nefesh more possible? And the main part is in exile. It will be explained. Right? So, again, summary of Hey. Two explanations to the Jewish people's faith in Hashem. One, the soul exists in a spiritual seems godliness, and this causes that aspect of the soul to believe in Hashem with simple faith. And two, there's faith that's rooted in the essence of our soul that is inside us. The essence of the soul is connected through an essential bond, and that bond is reflected in your faith. The faith which stems from the perception of the soul as spiritual realm serves merely as an encompassing, makif, again, right? Since the soul is surrounding you and it's outside your body, similarly, the connection is a makif connection. It's a surrounding connection. And this is why we need Moshe Rabbeinu. What does Moshe do? Moshe nurtures and sustains the faith of the people, enable him to be internalized, because he reveals the essence that every Jew possesses. The essence of the neshama, the fundamental revelation of the essence of the soul is through, we said, Mesir Nefesh, giving over your soul, which is expressed most primarily in exile. Vav. The fact that the Jewish faith is in a way that he gives over his soul for it. What is this faith? This is the faith that comes from the essence of your soul, the inside. The faith that comes from the fact that your luck experiences godliness, the soul that is above you, even though this is a very powerful thing, מכל מקום, כיוון שהאמונה שלו מצד סיבה, מצד זה שרואה, אינה קשורה עם עצם אמיתו. Since the reason you believe, the fact of this faith is because the soul above can see godliness. So now this is a faith that's based on a reason. Even if the reason is a very, even though the reason itself is not really connected, and it's not connected with the essence of your reality. This is your soul that is above. The luck, your luck can see godliness. And for this, a person won't necessarily be willing to give over his soul. But the fact that the Jews were willing to give over their soul, they were willing to die rather than convert, even though all they needed to say was, I'm not Jewish, or I'm not of the nation of Mordechai. They were not willing to do that. Right? Because they were willing to give over their soul because their true faith was in the essence of him. It's impossible that he truly would sin in that way, right? No Jew will allow himself to be cut off from Hashem. ועל פי זה יש לבר מה שכתב אמר דזה שמשה הוא ראיה מהימנה שהוא זן מפרנס את האמונה. So the fact, we go back to explain the fact that in the Frierdiker Rebbe's discourse it says that Moshe is the faithful shepherd, or the shepherd of faith, which sustains and nurtures the faith. This applies to the shepherd of the Jewish people in every generation. Which is the Moshe Rabbeinu of that generation. What do? They strengthen the faith of the Jewish people. That they should stand and be willing to give over their soul to fulfill Torah and mitzvot. לכאורה, זה שמשה זן מפרנס את האמונה הוא כמובן בכמה מקומות גם אמר זה עצמו על ידי שמשפיע על ישראל דעת באלוקות. שעל ידי זה בא אמונה בפנימיות. So this maamar itself, the fact that you influence the Jewish people, is knowledge and godliness. through spreading of the knowledge of godliness can come this internal faith. And this is what it means that they fulfilled and the Jewish people received. They accepted what they already fulfilled, what they already received. They fulfilled, what they already received. Okay, so now I'm sorry. I apologize. The fact that the shepherds of faith in every generation strengthen the faith, which is explained in this maamar. What do the shepherds do? They strengthen the faith so that the faith of the Jewish people can be in a way of Mesirut Nefesh, of giving over your soul. The main point of the shepherd of faith is that he does sustain and nurture the faith itself. The faith should not just be the way it is the way that it's revealed. Not just from the way that the soul above can see godliness. From the side of the essence of the soul. The fact that Moshe can continue the faith in the inner way, right, inside, through knowledge and understanding, right? Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't just need to have it external, to have it be like Chokhmah. No, he can take it internal, what is the internal? If you take Chokhmah internally, it's knowledge, it's wisdom. Because he sustains and nurtures the faith itself. What is this? He continues and reveals the faith the way it is from it can be seen from the side of the essence of the soul, as explained in the 5th part. So the continuation of the faith in the inner way, in dat, knowledge, is through the revelation of the internal connection of the essence of your soul. ועל פי זה יש לומר, בזה שבדורות הוצרכו למסירות נפש בפועל, חיזקו רואי ישראל, התפשטות דמשה את האמונה דישראל שתהיה מסירות נפש. And the fact that throughout the generations, they had to have mesirat nefesh literally, right? In actuality, the shepherds of the Jewish people, the Moshe Rabbeinu that was spread to that generation, strengthened the faith of the Jewish people that it should be in a way of mesirat nefesh. נתגלה העניין דראיה מהימנה עוד יותר ממשה בעצמו. And this actually was able to reveal this shepherd of faith, this attribute of the shepherd of faith by them more than by Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Let me repeat that. The faith, the fact that the shepherd, the continuation of Moshe Rabbeinu every generation were able to help the Jewish people to have this faith in a way of Mesirat Nefesh, Gin Over Soul, was revealed this idea of the shepherd of faith more than by Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Why? Because the continuation and the revelation of the faith as it is from the side of the inner side of the soul, because the main way is literally Mesirat Nefesh in actuality. So, let's summarize the 6th chapter. One second, there's a fire truck coming around. Sorry. All right. So, again, a Jew willingness to sacrifice his life for his faith stems primarily from faith in the essence of his soul. Why will a Jew give up his life for faith? Because faith in Hashem is the very essence of his being, right? Similarly, the shepherds of Israel, the extension of Moshe in every generation, the shepherds of faith, strengthened the faith of the Jewish people, inspiring them to manifest this Mesirat Nefesh, self-sacrifice, for the sake of Torah and mitzvot, by revealing the essence of the soul, right? And we explained that Moshe is a shepherd of faith by imparting knowledge to the Jewish people. There's no contradiction between the two concepts. The primary activity of the shepherd of faith is sustaining and nurturing faith itself, meaning to lift the faith above the influence of all the other powers by revealing the essence of our soul. Moshe's achievements in internalizing faith is an outgrowth of the effort to sustain and nurture it through the revelation of the essence of the soul. So the shepherds of Israel, who strengthened the faith, inspire the self-sacrifice expressed in the shepherd of faith in a greater way than did Moshe Rabbeinu himself, because the revelation of the dimension of faith, which stems from the essence of the soul, is primarily manifest through actual self-sacrifice. Zayin. It's known when was there giving over of the soul, literally self-sacrifice, willing to die for your faith, literally was for of all the Jewish people was in Purim, which we just had. Bizman Gzerat Haman, at the time of the decree of Haman. The giving over, the Mesirat Nefesh of Chanukah was mostly, during the decree of the Greeks, was mostly by Matityahu and his sons. It wasn't the whole Jewish people. But the Mesirat Nefesh, the willing to give over your soul to die for Hashem, for your Jewish faith, was by every single Jew at the time of the decree of Haman. ועל פי זה יש לבאר מה שמבואר מדרש מרדכי היה שקול בדורו כמו שבדורו. And this we have to explain what it says in the Medrash. Mordechai in his generation was like Moshe in his generation. דאגם שהתפשטותו דמשה ובכל דור מכל מקום, הייתה במדרש שמרדכי דווקא היה שקול בדורו כמו שבדורו. It says that even though the spreading out of Moshe is in every generation, it's still written in the Medrash, Mordechai specifically was the equivalent of, in his generation, of Moshe in his generation. What's the point? One of the big things of Mordechai is that he was the shepherd of faith in a revealed way of all the Jewish people in his generation. Similar to Moshe Rabbeinu, who was in a revealed way the faithful shepherd or the shepherd of faith of his generation. And Even more so, from the fact that the whole generation of Moshe is called the generation of knowledge. Interesting. Let's see if there is a side note. Why? Why was his generation the generation of knowledge? Why? Because he brought, or knowledge, he brought down knowledge to all the people of his generation. So if Moshe brought knowledge of Hashem, knowledge of the Torah mitzvah to this whole generation, this was the generation that learned, to receive this knowledge from Moshe. Mordechai was able to reveal instead, continued the knowledge of the revelation was the power of Messiah to his whole generation. The way Moshe taught his whole generation Torah, Mordechai was able to reveal this self-sacrifice by every. And we have to continue what was said in the maamar, that said in the Medrash, that Mordechai in his generation was equal to Moshe in his generation. And by saying this, the Rebbe now says, the owner of the Hasidic discourse says the same judgment upon himself. And this is obviously the Rebbe saying about the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe who gave the original discourse that he's quoting. The fact that the Frierdiker Rebbe said this about Mordechai, the Rebbe says this includes the same by the Frierdiker Rebbe himself. And we can take an extension. Now I'm adding my own words instead of the words of the Rebbe. If the Rebbe said by the Frierdiker Rebbe in his Hasidic discourse, it doesn't take too much connection to say that mayhaps the Rebbe in discourse paskins this about himself as well. Doesn't take too much of a stretch. So
leader of this generation.
Exactly. So the summary of Zion, this was a nice and short one. So the time of the Hanukkah miracle, the Mesirat Nefesh was only by a tiny portion of the Jewish people.
That's right.
While in Purim, the entire nation experienced this, right? And so we can appreciate the equivalence of Moshe and Mordechai mentioned by the sages. Both Moshe and Mordechai affected their generation in the entirety. Moshe was a servant of faith, infusing every member of his generation with knowledge. Literally, they went from they didn't know anything about Hashem or how to serve Hashem to the generation that learned and fulfilled the whole Torah. They were able to fulfill everything. They entered the land of Israel. Moshe served his capacity by revealing the quality of Mesirat Nefesh in every member of his generation. And similarly, as we said, Mordechai in his generation, and the Rebbe said about the Frierdiker Rebbe in his generation, and obviously we can apply to the Rebbe. Chet. ועל פי זה יש לבאר קשר וסדר עניינים במאמר בביאור הפסוק ואתה תצווה. So now we're going to go and start connecting and ordering the ideas in the maamar again in the discourse. The Rebbe is talking about the discourse of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. בביאור הפסוק ואתה תצווה, when we're talking about the commandment, and you shall command. שבתחילה מבארת הפירוש דבעתה תצווה בני ישראל שמשה מקשר ומחבר לישראל. What is the explanation that he starts with? Moshe Tetzave can also mean command, but it can mean connect. It can mean that you're connecting the Jewish people. Right? And the fact that it starts with Moshe is connecting the Jewish people with the Or Ein Sof, with the infinite light. How? By sustaining and nurturing their faith. And then the Frierdiker Rebbe continues and says, the shepherds of faith in every generation, which is the continuation of Moshe, of every generation, strengthen the faith of the Jewish people. Like Mordechai, the Moshe in his generation, that strengthened the faith of the Jewish people to be powerful in learning Torah and fulfilling mitzvot. And then the Frierdiker Rebbe goes after this and explains the idea of the crushed for the luminary. Shebepasuk VeAta Tetzave, which is again in the pasuk, and you shall command. Shemedaber lichora b'Moshe Atzmo, which seems to speak about you shall command, is talking to Moshe. You, Moshe, shall command. כי זה שמשה מגלה בחינת המאור לישראל עצם הנשמה, the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu reveals the level of the luminary of the Jewish people, the essence of the soul, ובעיקר על ידי התפשטות הדאלה שבזמן הגלות, כתית שעוררו בישראל כוח המסירות נפש שלהם. This can be revealed specifically through the crushing of the exile that can awaken the Jewish people, awaken our strength of our self-sacrifice. And this allows us to reveal the essence of our soul, which is the luminary itself. It's what shines the light. And we still have to understand. It seems like the idea of the crushing for the luminary belongs to, and you shall command the Jewish people. It seems like the connection is to the you shall command, to the Moshe Rabbeinu of every generation, and the connection to the Jewish people. But we have a pause. The pasuk doesn't say, and you shall command them to have crushed oil for the luminary. No. It says, and they shall bring it to you. Right? They shall bring it to you, shemen zayit zach, pure olive oil. So the inyan veikhu elecha gomer, meaning this was the second question. Why are they bringing it to Moshe when Aaron is the one who deals with the oil? Sh'Yisrael mevim shemen leMoshe. U'sh'Yisrael mosifim tosafot or b'Moshe. The idea of bringing the oil to Moshe is that the Jewish people are adding light in Moshe Rabbeinu, as was explained in the second part of the maamar. So again, the summary of the 8th part. And the next part is pretty long, so I think we're going to stop with the 8th part. We're going to summarize where we are, because the 9th part it's a pretty long part, and I don't want to try to rush it. It's going to get good. It's already good, but it's going to get even deeper. God willing, we'll continue next week remotely, because I will be in Cleveland, Ohio, celebrating Bar Mitzvah. But Bli Neder, I will try to make the class at 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock my time, Bli Neder, if I may. I will attempt to do that, Bli Neder. So, summary of the chapter we just finished. It is possible to explain the conceptual sequence of the maamar, the Kibbutz Yehudim, the original maamar of the Frierdiker Rebbe, this way. It starts with stating Moshe commands and bides the Jewish people of the Orient Sof through sustaining nature of their faith. Afterwards, it explains the extension of Moshe in every generation, strengthens the faith of the Jewish people, and motivates them to Mesirut Nefesh. His influence enables the expression crushed for the luminary. When the Jews... The Jewish people motivates them to marry, which enables expression, motive, crush, and luminary. When the Jews are crushed, the luminary, the essential part of our godliness within them, is revealed. There is, however, a need for a clarification, which we'll get next week. According to the above explanation, the concept of corruptible luminary is related to you shall command the Jewish people. But what is the connection to and they shall bring you pure olive oil? We said this phrase alludes to potential the Jews have to actually augment Moshe Rabbeinu's power. And this is going to be explained, God willing, how we can elevate the Rebbe, how we can elevate the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation, how we can bring the oil to the Rebbe and elevate the Rebbe and elevate ourselves and elevate this world, God willing, to the Geula. Will be continued, God willing, next week with the 9th section. Shkoach and Shabbat Shalom. And God willing, I hope that next week, instead of being in Cleveland learning this from there, we can all be learning it with in Yerushalayim, with the Melech HaMashiach. Kol Tuv.
Amazing.